Hi everyone, I'm Professor Benta. I'm a Principal Cloud Support Engineer at AWS and I'm based out of Dublin, Ireland. Welcome to AWS Supports You, where we share best practices and troubleshooting tips from AWS Support. Joining me today is Shreyas Gandhi. Can you give us a quick introduction, Shreyas?
Hey, thank you, Francesco. This is Shreyas Gandhi. I'm a Senior Technical Program Manager for Customer Experience and Frontline Enablement Team for AWS Support. My core focus is to own, deliver, and drive automation tooling and security programs and products in order to optimize customer experience with AWS Support. Keep switching hats between technical program management and product management.
Thank you, Shreyas. So in today's topic, AWS Supports You using support automation workflows. We will also discuss what support automation workflows are, how they can help you troubleshoot and address challenges faster, and what is the process we follow to deliver these workflows to our customers. But before we get into details, a quick note to the attendees online. Feel free to use the chat window on the right-hand side of your screen to share your thoughts and ask your question through the episode. Also, if you use the support automation workflows before, let us know, and we want to know about your experiences. We look forward to hearing from you. Shreyas, can you walk us through what we're going to be talking about today?
Absolutely, Francesco. So today we want to talk about how Premium Support leverages automation to assist AWS customers through their journey in the AWS cloud. Now, we're going to start with reviewing the customer opportunity, followed by a deep dive into what Systems Manager is, followed by the support automation workflows overview, and then the premium support ownership of the product, the different types of SAW runbooks, and how it enables self-service for the customers today. Finally, we'll have a demo of our automation, followed by a quick sneak peek into how we deliver the SAW runbooks. So without further delay, Francesco, could you walk us through the customer opportunity for automation?
Yes, thank you, Shreyas. So before I start, anybody ever face a problem while learning AWS services or building their infrastructure on AWS, please let us know in the chat. It's completely natural to run into problems when you're starting something new. So either be a simple web stack or a more complex service architecture. Either because you not have the right level of expertise yet, or maybe a few moving parts which you might not be familiar with, which increase human mistake. So depending on when you made a mistake, when you're trying to achieve a goal, it might take minutes or even hours to address it and to resolve just a single problem. So this can be very frustrating, especially if you're just getting started. So I have to say that this also happens to experienced users. Sometimes you might have a long list of tasks that you have to do, and then you make a small mistake or use the wrong parameter, and then can lead again to potential issues. So customer in general solve this by writing set of instructions or work books that they will share with each other so that they can accomplish repetitive tasks and they know how to navigate their environments. But it's still something that's quite prone to human error. And if you make a mistake on step 2 out of 100, then it may take forever to try to figure out where things went wrong. So one thing that I want to say is that whenever you're getting stuck, you can always engage with the premium support so that you can get an expert to assist you and help you solve whatever problem or issue that you're currently facing. But this is also something that will require some time depending on the level of context. So we need context to review what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, and then help you address whatever issue you might be having. So we started looking at these as actually an opportunity. So a few opportunities actually to improve the experience and to improve speed of delivery and to remove as many obstacles as possible. We started asking you, so what if you could automate that instruction that you're sharing with each other so that you don't have to have humans running them, and so that we try to remove the human element from that set of instructions. Most importantly, if you're running into a problem, what if you could automate the troubleshooting and even the resolution of the problem itself, or even automate all of these so that if you're running into a problem, we can detect it automatically and solve it for you without any kind of human interaction. So these are a few of the things that we started looking into and trying to figure out if we could do something for our customers to simplify that level of interactions and basically simplify the entire AWS experience. So before we go into a bit more details on, and Shreyas will talk us about the story of support automation workflows and how we started all these, wanted to start giving a brief intro on Systems Manager. So System Manager is something that we discussed in one of our previous episodes. I'll paste a link in the chat so that if you want, you can go and have a look at it, where we're discussing it a bit more detail. But System Manager is basically what we use as the operation hub for AWS. It's a suite of tools that allow you to give you a unified interface so that you can track and resolve operational issues. You can group your resources together logically so that you can have good insight into what your application is doing or what your infrastructure is doing, and also use it to view the operational data, take operational actions, and basically have a one-stop shop to all your needs, either on premises or on AWS, and even it works on hybrid environments. So it makes it easier to solve issues at scale, because while it might be easy to manage 2, 3, 10 resources, when you start having hundreds, then it's a good way of categorizing and having a quick glance at how your resources are performing. For the purpose of this episode, though, I wanted to focus on the System Manager automation, which is at the core of the support automation workflows. This is something specific that simplifies both common maintenance and deployment tasks of Amazon EC2 and other AWS resources, and as we say as well on premises. You can build those automation to configure and manage resources. We provide quite a lot of runbooks from AWS that span a lot of different services. I'll paste a few links so that you can start having a look. There's also a link to the workshop that you can use to learn a bit more about this. This is something that can help you get a bit sped with it. In the interface with Eventbridge, so getting notifications when your automation are completed or if they are stopping for whatever reason, and you can monitor the progress and details of the automation from the console. So it's a good place to understand what is currently happening and in your automation that help you manage your resources. And this is basically at the core of the so port automation workflows is something that we started looking into and started using to deliver those automations. So Shreyas, can you give us a quick introduction on how support automation workflows were born and how we started the entire process?
Absolutely, Francesca, and you just made my job so much easier by giving that background on systems managers. Thank you for that. So basically in Amazon, we always work backwards to deliver high quality service with zero pain points. So SAW signifies the core Amazon philosophy of being customer obsessed, where we want to combine our experience, best practices, and lessons learned over years to eliminate repetitive, time-consuming, and manual customer tasks. So talking about the origin of support automation workflows, it always starts with the customer. In this case, the customers contact premium support with a challenge. The support engineers solve it and document it for future reference. Now, soon enough, we started noticing observable trends in customers contacting us for troubleshooting common challenges for some of the AWS services. So we took our solutions, built a custom tool, the easy to rescue, that can help customers with their OS issues. This worked just fine. However, there was one small problem. The solution was not native to AWS, and the customers needed to manually install and configure options before the operation of the tool. So this led to the evolution of our offering and gave rise to support automation workflows. So with this realization, we began exploring options for native AWS services that we could use to automate common customer requests and issues. This is when we discovered Systems Manager. We started using the run command documents to automate common customer asks on customer instances. And in no time, Systems Manager launched the automation platform that supported runbooks that Francesco introduced just a while ago. And we started building runbooks that would make our customers' lives much simpler and allow them to focus on their business and important needs rather than focusing on the infrastructure. So in no time, we'd also begin scaling our program and launch multiple runbooks to make our lives easier for the customers. So let's take a look at what SAW is. So like Francesco accurately mentioned, SAW runbooks are written, maintained by AWS Premium Support. These runbooks are helping AWS customers to troubleshoot common issues with their AWS resources, proactively monitor and identify network issues, collect and analyze logs, support migration, and much more. Now, a few important points to note about the SAW runbooks are they are native to AWS, can execute on almost any resource in the AWS cloud, support Python and PowerShell, and support on-prem executions as well. Francesco, anything to add here?
Yes, so you mentioned that you can use Lambda or PowerShell. Do you mean we can run custom code? So what is limited to what can an automation do in your AWS account?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. The potential is huge, right? So within the runbook itself for Systems Manager, it provides the execute script option to actually execute PowerShell or Python code for anything that is not natively supported within the Systems Manager service. So you can also, you also need to provide the runtime and the handler, just like for Lambda, except for PowerShell, you don't need the handler. And the common limit supply, you can execute action runs for about 600 seconds. And the syntax is also similar to Lambda. So all that is absolutely possible, Francesco.
And yeah, that's great to hear also because it gives you way more flexibility, especially when you're building your run books for your own need. Maybe you have an application that requires to have some sort of interaction. So the ability of running code allows you to basically do anything you want. It's also nice to know that the run books can integrate directly with most AWS APIs, so you can take action and execute without having how to know to run code, to write code, but having the option of running code help you quite a bit when you have more complex scenarios. So, Shreyas, one thing that I would like to mention here and I would like you to discuss with the audience is to talk a bit about the premium support ownership. So one of the things that I particularly like about the support automation workflows is that it is something that was born in premium support and is created and maintained by premium support. So can you talk a bit about this?
Absolutely, Francesca. It would be my honor. So, premium support engineers are always focused on customer satisfaction. When customers are stuck or facing challenges, we leave no stone unturned to migrate common customer concerns, including providing quality solutions, driving service improvements, new feature requests and launches, as well as escalating issue resolution. We are the advocate for our customers, and we are the team to reach out to simplify complexity when customers are facing challenges. And at times when we can't simplify, we start automating by building runbooks that enable our customers on to resolve issues on a single click. And we are proud of the strong premium support ownership for creating, delivering, and maintaining the support automation workflow runbooks from our daily learnings and experiments from customer pain points to enable self-service for our customers. Now, before I dive further into the SAW and the aspects for it, Francesco, could you walk us through the most important aspect, the security pillar for support automation workflows?
Absolutely. And yeah, I would like to mention that this is the most important aspect for everything here at AWS. We have this motto where we say security is job zero. So it is something that we take very seriously, and that's a responsibility not only from our security team, but everyone from premium support to service owners to everyone basically who are interacting in Amazon will always have the biggest drive towards security. It's our main responsibility, and then we are part of security first, and then we do our other jobs after. This means that the process we use to write the runbooks, identifying which runbooks we need to have strict reviews from AWS security teams, and we have multiple checkpoints to ensure that the safety of customer data and the authenticity of the runbook that they are going to use and that they're going to run. So it is something that will be absolutely no question asked, will always be security first. And in order to improve these as well, we also go through solid unit and integration tests and use focus groups to extensively test runbooks in their local environments to ensure that when you're running those runbooks in your environments, they maintain the highest standard of quality and they're problem-free, and they allow you to achieve your job as securely and as fast as possible. So we try to set the highest bar possible for the support automation workflows that we deliver for our customer. One thing, though, I would like to also remember our audience is that we follow also the shared responsibility model. What this means is that while we ensure that the tools that you're running and the service that you're using are as secure as possible, you still need to ensure that what you're doing with these services and tools and runbooks is secure as well. So you want to use IAM best practices and the least privilege model that when you want to run runbooks as well, especially if you're providing roles to the automations, you want to review the parameters that you're using with those automations as well, and the desired outcome. We'll have a look at for example, one of the runbooks, and now you can use it in different ways. For example, rebooting or not rebooting a resource, or checking just for an issue rather than fixing it. And this might have implication, especially when you're running these on production resources. So that's why you need to be extremely clear, review the documentation, understand what those runbooks are going to do for you, and then ensure that what they are doing is acceptable in your use case. So basically, looking at the documentation will be as clear as possible with description and for the runbook. And now we can have a look at what a runbook looks like. So Shreyas, can you show us what we meant by that, and tell us about the troubleshoot RDP runbook?
Absolutely, Francesco. Let's talk about an example of the troubleshoot RDP runbook that kind of helps customers to resolve their connectivity challenges that they face when connecting to a Windows instance via RDP. Basically, the RDP runbook allows the users to check or modify common settings on the target instance, which may impact their remote desktop protocol or RDP connections, such as the RDP port, the network layer authentication, or the Windows firewall profiles. By default, the runbook reads the outputs of all the values that have been set for this runbook. So on the screen, you will notice some of the parameters that are required for executing this runbook. Of these parameters, you will see two values that are being surfaced. One in the action is check all, and the second is fix all. So if you select the check all option for executing this runbook, it's simply going to output all the statuses of the different commands that are being run and the services that we are checking against. So under check all, you will get the status of the Windows firewall profiles, you will get the RDP service status, and you will also check the RDP settings and simply display them as output values of the executions. However, if you were to select fix all as an action, we will run the PowerShell script to not only display the firewall profile status, but we will also disable it. We will start the RDP service just to ensure that the service is actually working for you to connect. And we will enable remote connections and disable NLA using our runbook and the scripts we've configured. So these options are completely dependent on your choice. And again, I want to highlight the Francesco's comment on raising the bar and maintaining security as the top priority. Please review the documentation, the user guide, parameters, and expected outcome before running into these runbooks.
Thank you, Shreyas. And yeah, I can stress this enough. As you can say that we have options in our runbooks that will reboot your resources, and you want to be sure that when you're running those runbooks in a capability that will reboot your resources, that indeed you can afford that resources to be rebooted, for example. So before we move to the types of support automation runbooks, there's a question from Tomai242, and is asking, are automation documents the same things as runbooks?
Oh, absolutely. I'd be happy to answer that. So you've got it right. Automation documents is an old terminology, and runbooks is the new terminology that Systems Manager has implemented, but both of them mean the same.
And thank you, Shreyas. So going next to the types of support automation runbooks, workflow runbooks. Can you tell us about what kind of runbooks do we have, and what they are available for?
Absolutely. Before we dive into the different types of support automation workflow runbooks, I would like to kind of make the customers understand that SAW runbooks have access based on the customer's premium support subscription plan. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce premium support. At premium support, we have designed different plans to give you the right mix of tools to access expertise so that you can be successful with AWS while optimizing performance or managing risk and keeping your costs under control. We offer basic support that is available to all customers by default and at no cost, and followed by developer, business, and enterprise support plans that have varying SLA and support features. And in accordance to the premium support plans that we offer, SAW runbooks kind of match the premium support product offering. So it's super simple, right? All SAW runbooks are identified by a common prefix of AWS Support or AWS Premium Support. Basic customers have access to SAW runbooks with the prefix AWS Support. For example, the AWS Support activate Windows with Amazon license. And then AWS Enterprise and Business Support customers have also access to runbooks with prefix AWS Support, but additional access to runbooks with the prefix AWS Premium Support, which has advanced troubleshooting capabilities, like the AWS Premium Support troubleshoot EC2 disk usage. And we'll look through some of these runbooks in further details. So let's take a look at the console experience for SAW runbooks in Systems Manager. So on the screen, you can see a quick screenshot that is displaying all the different runbooks on the Systems Manager console. It's the documentation console or the automation documentation console that we are looking at. We have systematically categorized the SAW runbooks in a separate category called as the self-service support workflows, visible on the left. And all the workflows with the prefix AWS support hyphen or premium support hyphen will be visible under this category. Now, we've got about 30 plus SAW runbooks today focused on helping customers in their day-to-day life and AWS operations. The taxonomy of these runbooks can be classified further into troubleshooting, which is simply checking for the status and health for your resources, like troubleshoot RDP, or remediation, wherein we go in and fix the customer's problem using the scripts and runbooks that we've configured, like the AWS Support Execute EC2 Rescue. Migration runbooks, where we can help you migrate from source A to destination B, like the EC2 Classic to VPC migration. Monitoring workbooks, or runbooks, which can proactively monitor your resources and alert you to take actions, like the setup IP monitoring. We've also got log collection workbooks, like the ECS log collector or the EKS log collector, that can help you collect logs from customer instances and push it to an S3 bucket, or at simple list all your resources in your AWS account. And we are working to diversify our product offering even further. Francesco, would you like to add any more points here?
Yes, thank you, Shreyas. So what the first thing is that we try to and strive to automate as much as possible, so that you don't have to do any of the work, and that's why we have these diverse number of workflows that will allow you to achieve your goal. And we'll talk in a bit more detail on how we do that and how we work backwards from the customer in a moment. The other thing is that all these workflows are, all these runbooks are available in all commercial regions. So no matter what is the resource, so where you're running your resources, either in US East 1 or in IP Southeast 2, you can run those runbooks just fine. Obviously, services needs to be in that region to be supported for the automation runbooks, but if it's available in one region, it will be available in all the other regions. So before we start talking about enabling customer self-service, just have a question. And this is something that we discussed in the past during our meetings, and the reusability of those runbooks. So can you reuse runbooks? Can you nest runbooks together? How that does work?
Oh, absolutely, Francesco. You could use runbook. You could even go and copy the source of a runbook to create your own custom runbook, and then add additional actions that are not supported for that one book out of the box, right? And as far as nesting is concerned, this is something to our sister services like CloudFormation. They offer stacks, and each stack can call a stack within. Similarly, every runbook can also call a child runbook, and you can have file levels of nested operations as such, wherein you can go file levels deep and execute runbooks in that order, so that if you face any limitations with the size or attachments, you can kind of overcome them using multiple runbooks. And sometimes customers prefer the well-architected framework where everything is segregated into components, so that you can easily identify what runbook is performing which operation. So you can also use that ideology and kind of partition your runbook so that you and your team understands what runbook is responsible for which operation within the system.
Perfect. Thank you. So, and I think that's a great way of doing things. We're moving it towards these elements as well, so that we can write smaller components that we can reuse to make the delivery of our runbooks even faster for our customers. One of the things I want to discuss with the audience, if you can share this with the audience, is that how we are enabling customer self-service. So we said at the beginning that you can always contact premium support anytime you're having an issue or you have a question or you're getting stuck somewhere. But ideally, we want to empower you so that you can resolve these issues even before they're happening. So trying to automate as much as possible. But even for repetitive tasks, as collecting logs, and we'll talk about this in a second, we want to make sure that you don't have to wait and do things that could, again, easily be automated with a click. So Shreyas, can you tell how we determine customer benefits and how we basically decide how these runbooks are helping our customers?
Absolutely. With SAW, we want to ensure that all our runbooks are geared towards supporting the customers and are working backwards to build high impacting customer automations. So each workflow we release uses lean methodologies like time in motion studies that are conducted with a focus group of AWS experts to ensure that we deliver high customer value. And at an average, our studies indicate that our SAW runbooks reduce manual customer effort by at least 20 minutes per execution of the runbook. And in order to see how we do it, let's go ahead and take a look into some of our high impacting runbooks. So on the screen, you'll see under the migration category, we've got the AWS Support Migrate EC2 Classic to VPC runbook. Now, this runbook helps you to migrate your EC2 Classic resources into VPC. With EC2 Classic, your instances generally run in a single shared network. With Amazon VPC, which is the most newer or recent offering, your instances run in a virtual private cloud that's logically isolated to your AWS account. Francesco, do you want to add more content to this migration and the drive behind it?
Absolutely. So one of the things that probably newer user of AWS will not know is that before we add VPCs, you run instances in EC2 Classic, which is instances run in a single shared network. And this was before 2013, where you had no longer the option of running resources in EC2 Classic, but rather only on VPC. We want to help our customer transition to VPC and to use the additional features that VPC offers. And this is something where we have guides and we tell people how to do it. So you can see in one of the links I pasted what are the instructions, what are the requirements to run an EC2 Classic to VPC migration. And as you can see from that document, there's quite a few steps. What this automation does for you is basically takes an input, an instance ID, and then run all the steps that are required to create a VPC for you, copy the security groups that were associated to that instance. So basically do all the heavy lifting for you automatically while testing the outcome that basically this migration from EC2 Classic to VPC went well and it's working fine. So further removing the need for you to run all these steps manually. So this is one of those things where we're kind of proud. We want to help our customer as much as possible with these, and it is something that sometimes we get contacted with support, and simply we can automate it. Why not? It saves quite a bit of time for our customers. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is log collection. So log collection is something that we do quite often. We ask our customer to do quite often. So AWS Support has no access to customer data. So anytime we need to troubleshoot with you some application's behavior, try to understand why something is happening, we will ask you to provide us with your logs. Logs is still your data, and you'll have to collect and provide these logs to premium support. This is something that can take a bit of time, especially when you have, for example, for this specific automation, the collect EKS instance logs, you might have a big cluster with a lot of nodes, and it might take quite a bit of time to retrieve those logs from those nodes. So what we are doing with this automation is basically specifying your targets and then upload the logs bundled on S3 so they can share quite simply with the premium support or even with your colleagues in case you are discussing something together or you need to understand a behavior behavior with your colleagues, you don't need to do this manually. Again, want to stress out that you don't only use these runbooks when you're interacting with the Premium Support. You can use on your own to, again, diagnose and troubleshoot issues with no problems. The other thing, Shreyas, can you talk the last one about monitoring? So because we talk about something to automate common issues, another to help you with troubleshooting, there's also something that empowers you to improve your infrastructure and gather additional data. Can you talk a bit about the monitoring one?
Absolutely. The AWS Support Setup IP monitoring from VPC is one of our actually proactive runbooks that creates an EC2 instance in the specified subnet and monitors the target IPs continuously by running ping, traceroute, trace TCP stats, and multiple other statistics. The results of these tests are stored in CloudWatch logs, and metric filters are applied to visualize network statistics in a CloudWatch dashboard. So you can not only collect the test results, but you can also visually see what's happening with your resources and if there's any issues that being detected. So like I mentioned, this is one of our proactive workflows that can actually warn you in case of an anomaly is detected, and you can then take any actions that can prevent impact to your production accounts or even implement DR strategies as needed. So accordingly, like we have the setup IP monitoring from VPC workflow, we've also got the terminate IP monitoring from VPC workflow that can help you clean up all the resources that were created by the setup workflow in the case that the need ceased to exist for monitoring the target IPs.
Fantastic. Thank you. So I'm quite excited because we got to the demo time, so to show what a workflow execution looks like. Before we go there, though, we have a question from Monramon357. So he's asking, how about runbooks with the playbooks? What's the difference?
So from what I understand in the systems managed terminology, runbooks are the primary mechanism for the automation platform to execute a series of steps. And as for my knowledge, I think playbooks are pretty much the same, but we can connect offline on that as well. Connect and check on that.
A playbook was more around the industry generic term for set of actions that is not only limited to software. You might have a playbook for operations or for dealing with specific issues that again are not IT related. The runbook will be the specific for, in our case, the system managers automation. We call them runbook, but the concept behind it is more or less the same, and the runbook will be a more specific term for it.
Yeah, I think it's the Ansible playbooks and plays that I'm familiar with. If that's the context, then it absolutely makes sense. Thank you, Francesco.
No problem. So the demo that we have prepared is based around one of the Knowledge Center article that you can run. So basically what this runbook is going to do and what Shreyas is going to show is that how you can replace a key pair if you lost it to access your EC2 instances. So one of the most secure ways of connecting to your instances is using SSH key pairs, basically having this level of security with a secret and public key, and normally you will generate one or provide one through the console when you are spinning up resources so that you can then connect safely to your EC2 instances. Sometimes though you might lose access to the file either because you did not back it up or because it was lost, and you still might have needs to connect to those instances. So in this case there are procedures that you can follow when you have administrative rights to change the key that was previously used to connect to that instance, but it's quite a lot of steps. So if you look at the article that I just pasted, you can see that it is quite a few steps. So Shreyas, can you show us the demo and how this can help you, reduce the number of steps required and retrieve and replace your keys?
Absolutely, Francesca, and I'll be glad to do that. It's such a common scenario where customers either lose access to the SSH key pair for their Linux instances, or they forget the password for their Windows instances that they need to connect to the instance and execute on-instance commands or just monitor what's going on with the process on the server. So how you can get by this is utilize our ResetAccess runbook, you need to execute this runbook, and it's going to generate the Windows password for you over the SSH key pair. In order to execute this runbook, what you need to do is provide the runbook with an input parameter, which over here is an instance ID that is considered as the target instance whose access you have lost or you want to generate the password or the key pair for. So once you provide the input parameters, we will actually create a VPC and then launch a target instance inside the same AZ as the original instance. Once that is complete, this instance, we will call it as the SM-enabled helper instance. Basically, an SM-enabled helper instance is nothing but an EC2 instance with SM agent installed on it, so it can run on-instance commands. Once this is complete, we will stop the original or the target instance, create a backup for it, and then attach the original root volume of the target instance to the helper instance. Once this is complete, this runbook, the ResetAccess runbook, will then invoke another child runbook, which is the EC2 rescue runbook, which will run on the helper instance. Basically, it's going to run some on-instance commands. So if it were a Windows instance, the EC2 rescue runbook would enable password generation for local admin using EC2 config or EC2 launch on the attached original root volume on the helper instance. Now, if it were a Linux instance, then the EC2 rescue would generate and inject a new SSH key and save the private key encrypted into parameter store. Parameter store is nothing but a feature that Systems Manager offers to securely and encryptingly store data. Once this is complete, EC2 rescue will then reattach the root volume from the helper instance to the target or the original instance. We will also clean up all the resources that were created as part of this drive, including the helper instance. So now let's take a look at the AWS console and have a look at my helper instance that I've lost access to, and then troubleshoot there further. So here's my helper instance. I have named it my launch. I'm going to copy the instance ID so that I can use it for later. I'm also going to copy the public IPv4 address because I'll need it later to SSH into the instance. This is a Linux instance and a demo for a Linux instance as well. Now let's navigate to the Systems Manager Automation Console. So the Automation Console for Systems Manager will list all the documents. I'm going to use a keyword reset to search for my document. I'm going to hit enter and search for it. Once the search completes, you'll notice multiple options that match reset keyword. I will select the runbook with the prefix AWS Support, and I'm going to click on it. All right, this is the landing page for our AWS Support ResetAccess runbook. You can read the description, ensure that you know what you're doing. Go ahead and it will show you all the different steps that are being executed by the runbook. You can also dive into the details for specific steps to see what inputs it's expecting and what outputs it's going to generate. We can also look at the content of the runbook. What exactly is this runbook that we've been talking about? So let's switch to the content tab. So runbooks are nothing but JSON files. And then over here, you'll notice it's expecting parameters to be supplied from the users. Over here is the instance ID. It will also contain all the steps in JSON format that are being executed by this runbook. And the first step here is assert instances windows, and you can also see the APIs that are being called by this step, which is describe instances. So you can scroll through all the steps in the content tab. Let's go ahead and execute this runbook. So here's the execute automation document landing page. You can also notice options that you can execute this runbook across accounts, across regions, feature from Systems Manager. You can execute this step by step if you want to see the outputs. Let's go ahead and enter the input parameters. Remember the instance ID I copied earlier? Let's paste it. That's our target instance that we lost access to. For the subnet, instead of creating a new VPC, I'll just have the runbook figure the subnet for the existing instance and use that value. So I'm just going to use select instance subnet, paste it. Rest settings will be left to default because I'm using my permissions. And Systems Manager has this cool feature where you can generate this one-click executionable link so that next time you can directly land on this page and you do not have to navigate anywhere else. So let's go ahead and execute this. So notice how the overall status is being set to in progress on the execution detail page for this runbook. You can also notice all the different steps that are being executed for this runbook, unique IDs that you can further dive into the logs for. And then the first step has failed because, like I mentioned, this is a demo for Linux instances, not Windows, and hence it's expected for it to fail. So for the purpose of this demo, I'll show you a successful execution and what it looks like. There you go. Let me collapse the outputs. We'll come to that later. So here's how a successful execution looks. The first step has failed, and all the steps for Linux, which is 2 to 5, have completed successfully. Had this been a Windows instance, steps 2 to 5 would have failed, and everything else for Windows would have then succeeded. Now, for my current execution, I'll quickly check if the helper instance is online. Or before that, we can just simply look at the outputs. We've got the AMI backup that we've been creating for. We've also got the parameter key name that has been generated by this runbook, and then console logs if you want to dive into it. All right, let's check if my helper instance is online for the current execution. Let's hit refresh. Not yet, so I'm going to proceed with my completed execution for the purpose of the demo. So I'm going to find the key pair that was created by this runbook. For this, I'm going to use the parameter store feature for Systems Manager. So let's navigate to parameter store. It's just the feature from Systems Manager to securely store your parameters. That's my key. All right, so you notice in the description, this is the private key that has been generated by EC2 Rescue for Linux. On the bottom left, you can also see the value for the private key. And I can copy this and create a new PEM file. So let's put it to use, see if it's actually working. So simple SSH command, -i, my demo key.pem that has the value that I copied over, and then the username @IP. Hit enter. And there we go. We are accessing our EC2 instance. So it's pretty simple, and it's like you saw, it's completely hands-off. Now, quick jump back to a helper instance. Let's see if it's come online for the current execution. There you go. So that's the AWS Support EC2 Rescue helper instance. It's going to, once the EBS volume is detached from the original and attached to this helper instance, it's going to run on instance commands, generate the key pair, and push the file into parameter store for you. So yeah, I mean, you could argue and go through all of these steps manually, and Francesco's already shared the Knowledge Center article with you. It's 20, 25 plus steps, can take you 20, 30 minutes if you're an advanced user, or if you're a new user, you probably need to figure more of the details and jump into each step to understand actually what's happening, or you have the power to run this on a single click. So Francesco, would you like to add anything more to this?
Thank you, Shreyas, for the demo. I just want to add that you just need an instance ID. So we use the subnet because we have already an environment where we want to run the helper instance, but you could easily use these, putting an instance ID, go grab a cup of coffee, and then come back to the key that you will use to connect to it without having to do anything else. So even it would be even shorter than watching the explanation that we went through, which really saves quite a bit of time. And we're talking, again, 30 plus minutes if you're running everything correctly in between waiting about things launching and replacing the disk and logging in, copying the data, replacing the key. So it takes quite a bit of time. And this is something that you can really take one click only, put the instance ID, and you get back to this. So one of the things that seems that we briefly lost Shreyas. Welcome back. So one of the things that we wanted to discuss before we move to the end is that how we deliver the support automation workflows to our customers. So basically, is giving you an idea of what is the process that we take, the products we use, and the process that will allow us to go from an idea or data that we looked at from the questions that our customers are asking us to releasing data automation to you. So we can share the screen with the diagram. I'm going to paste a few links as well. One with the blog article that shows how to create a complete integration deployment infrastructure for your code, which is basically same concept that we are looking at here, and a few links to the individual products. But one thing that I'm particularly proud of is that everything is built using AWS services. Everything starts back from the customers. As we said, we look at the common questions that our customers are asking, the steps that they have to repeat, and then select. Our engineers will decide what are the next workflow that we would like to build. And this starts with coding, either the coding of the JSON that with detailing the steps, or a few Lambda functions that will be used during the automation. And as you might know, coding is never done on the first try. So we'll use code commit to both host and review the code. I'll go through several code reviews until we're happy with the process. So anytime we'll iterate over it, we get an idea, start working on it until we are satisfied with the idea itself. And then we can go through the process of using code build that will build the artifacts and go with the testing through unit tests, which test the accuracy of the single elements of the runbooks, and integration tests, which test how these runbooks are interacting with the environment that they are touching. For example, in the case of the instances, they recover the key. What happens when, again, we're launching the helper instance and retrieving the key. So basically understanding that everything works end to end. Obviously, we make mistakes as everyone. So sometimes those tests will fail. And the reason the tests are there to ensure that the runbooks are close to perfect as possible. And in case they fail, they will be sent back to review, to where our engineers will start working again, fixing the mistakes, and go through the same process again until we have something that's working correctly. But even in that case, the runbooks are not deployed automatically. We have a list of approvers that will look at the final outcome, ensure that there are no issues, that the runbooks is running correctly, all these that is secure enough. So all the things that we discussed during the security is job zero, to ensure that the runbook is high quality. Once it's approved and we determine it's high quality enough, a code deploy will then start working and building the bundles that will result in a CloudFormation template that will then create the runbooks that will be in System Manager. For System Manager, then is shared with everyone so that you can run it. And we have a Lambda function that then copies this runbook over different regions, all the commercial regions that are available. And this is not different from what you could do with running these. So if let's say that you want to work on some runbooks to help your deployment or troubleshooting of your infrastructure. So that's something that's unique for your company and the application that you have. You can definitely use our runbooks as a starting point. You can modify them as well if you wish, and then you can use same process to deploy it. But this also applies to coding or anything really where you want to have some structure around how you're reviewing your code and how you're deploying it. So hopefully that will be a good starting point for conversation in your company using these products as well. And again, we're very proud and happy to use AWS products to deliver those runbooks to our customers. That was everything from my side, and that's everything. So today we look at the support automation workflows and how you can use them to both accelerate and simplify your use of AWS. And we want to thank our moderators for posting the registration page for the upcoming episodes. So I'm going to post this again, but please bookmark this page to see what are the next episodes and to register for a next episode. We hope you join us the next time. If there are questions that were not answered today, you can post questions on forums.amazon.com. And if you have any feedback that you would like to share with us, you can use the email address AWSSupports@amazon.com. I'm going to paste both of those in the chat as well. And we want to hear from you, really. Your feedback is super important. We want to know what you would like to see on this show for next episodes. Thank you for joining us at AWS Supports You. And again, happy cloud computing. Bye.
Happy cloud computing.